Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you out there who are joining us on the Blue TV Thursdays at 10 a.m. Central Time. I'm so excited. We have a returning guest here today that I am looking so forward to having amazing conversation with. For those of you that don't know, Blue TV is really just an opportunity for us to meet amazing people who are having success here in LinkedIn. We learn a little bit more about what they're doing, and then we share some of the things that are helping us truly be successful here on LinkedIn so that you have some practical tips and takeaways that you can start to implement yourself today. So with that being said, I will do a poor job. I would never do Talila her, as much justice as I truly think she deserves. So I'll let her do her own introduction in just a moment. But I will say I had an honor in meeting Talila through our group that we belong to. I guess we started to really get to know one another in January. She joined us in the spring for an episode as a guest, and we had some amazing conversations. So I'm so honored, Talila, that you are here with us today. And I'd love for you to take it over and do your own introduction and share a little bit about what you're doing. And then we're going to go right into what, since the last time you were here, what are some of the new and exciting things that have transpired? So Talila, maybe if you could do your own introduction, I'd greatly appreciate that.
Thank you so much for your kind words, Denise, and I'm so happy to be here. It was a pleasure last time, and I'm sure this will be just another fun conversation this time. So my name is Talila Millman. I'm the Managing Director of and CTO of Millman Tech. And what we do is we help CEOs increase profit and scale through the crafting of winning strategies and improving and enhancing operating operations, both on the product engineering and operation side. I'm the author of this book, The Triumph Framework: 7 Steps to Leading Organizational Transformation. And that's it. That's my introduction.
Awesome. Thank you, Talila. And the last time you were here, we had an opportunity to really get to know a little bit about your framework, but only so much because you hadn't really launched your book yet. Now I'm excited to hear a little bit more about what's transpired since you've launched your book. What has changed now that you've had the opportunity to really talk about your framework more in open and explicitly?
It was awesome. To summarize it, you write on a book. You write a book for. I think it took me almost 2 years to write this book, and
Wow.
you're kind of marinating your own juice. During this time, I talked with a lot of leaders. I interviewed them for the book. I published bits and pieces of LinkedIn, just because I was living it all the time. So that was my content. It just came out of me and poured everywhere. But you don't really get to understand what you have, what you've done, and to appreciate it until you have the finished product and you get feedback from people. And I had amazing feedback from people. I have amazing reviews on Amazon, and people really feel that this book can help them to enhance their leadership, empowers them to be better leaders, to lead change in their organization. And change is one of the most important things, just because we live in a very volatile world with change all the time. Every time if you think about the last 4 years, what did we have? We had wars, we had COVID, climate change, supply chain problems, AI. This is a blessing, but it's also a huge change and a huge transformation to organizations. So leaders have to grapple with change all the time and have to find the right way to leverage it as a way to grow and scale their organization instead of something that puts them back. And so the framework is really useful on so many levels to cause this change. Is something happening there? I see that you're shifting.
Yes, there is something happening. So I'm so sorry. It is something outside my house that is not that I was not anticipating. But so disregard what I am paying attention to, and I apologize for that. I'm normally not distracted, but I have amazing windows here in my front office that look out into the front yard. So it's super awesome. But so one of the things I would say is that I remember when you had your book launch. I got to sit in that book launch event that you had, which was so super fun. And it was amazing to hear all the people that were speaking on your behalf at that event. It was a virtual event,
Yes.
which I thought was brilliant, by the way. And it was amazing to hear all these people who had some amazing things to say. What do you think? And you highlighted in your book some of those people, right? You highlighted some of the
leaders that did amazing things and grew their organization despite challenges and problems. So, for instance, one of the people that was in the event is Dr. Yoram Bennett, who is the CEO of Tate Communication, and he was struggling during COVID. He took an organization that was struggling, that was not doing well, and doubled revenue, brought it to a close to $1 billion operations, increased profits, increased customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction. His employee engagement was at amazing, I think it was like 88%. This is like one of the best numbers that I've heard for employee engagement. And he did that despite of a lot of challenges, both challenges that he inherited in the organization, and also COVID posed a lot of challenges in terms of supply chain problems, where they were facing a situation that they would need to close, and he personally got involved in getting the support that he needed from his suppliers to get that going. So all in all, an amazing story of success and applying the same principles that I have in Triumph to be successful and bring the organization to where it exceeded everybody's expectations.
An 88% increase. That's significant, all from leveraging your Triumph framework. Just amazing.
It's 88% engagement, employee engagement, which is amazing, because if you look at the average numbers, the average numbers is, I have it in the book. I don't remember it. I want to say it's around 30% or something like that. Let me see if I can quickly find it.
I am looking too right now.
I can look it up.
That to me just seems amazing.
Yes, this is an amazing number. I look it up later, but
yeah,
this is an amazing engagement number. And he talked about how he when he inherited a business that was struggling, and in such situation, a lot of the leaders tend to just go and start slashing staff and laying off people. But he refused to do that. And what he actually did was he went to get to the root of the challenge of what was happening, why things were not working out. He spoke to people at all levels, and he found that there were some not the right people at the right places. So he did reorg, and he did replace some people that were just not right for the job, but he did not lay off even one person at the low level. It was mostly people that really didn't help with the strategy of the organization. So that was one thing that he did. That's I highlight in the book the importance of really getting to the root of the challenge. I highlight how in a lot of situations leaders tend to lay off, but layoff is never the solution if it doesn't have a strategy with it. Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to cut costs, and that's the only way you can do it. But it has to come with a strategy. It has to come with an understanding of what are the real challenges, what are the real causes to the drop in revenue, to the drop in profit, and addressing them and being the reorg just being part of the solution, part of what you bring to the table, part of the entire plan. And there's actually hard data that shows that CEOs that come with an actual plan to the table, and not just the layoff, they're the one who get their investors support, and they're the one that usually get a much higher success rate in their efforts to turn around organizations.
Well, there's a couple of different things we could unpack there. One is just the concept of layoffs and the challenges that I think organizations face when they actually lay off, because there's a lot more cost involved in a layoff.
Exactly.
But the other is, I talk about this in sales as well. It's and my entire sales coaching platform or program is based around this being curious, getting to probable root cause, because so many times, even leaders, I could imagine, but when I'm engaging with prospects and buyers, they think they know the reason why they're trying to solve to a problem. But it's until you ask that second and third and fourth line question that they themselves don't even know. It's when they start to answer that they're like, oh my goodness, that's really what I'm trying to solve to, right? And I could see this being the same concept with leaders. They are solving to a problem, so they think, right? But until they start to really get deeper into that second and third and fourth line, reasoning, they then really truly understand the real problem at hand. But it takes having active conversation with them and guiding them to really get to that probable root cause. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. And I love the point that you mentioned about why, about asking questions. There is actually a formal method of getting to the root cause. It is called the 5 whys method.
Mm-hmm.
And this is asking why 5 times.
I love it.
With a problem. The machine is not working. And then you ask, why is it not working? And it's like, because the switch was blown. And then why would the switch was blown? Because this. And why did this happen? And then you go and you dig and you dig and you dig until you get to the real root cause of what happened, and you fix that, and then everything else works. So this is a formal method. I describe it in detail in the book. And it was it started in manufacturing, but it's now used across the board. So here it is. It's used in sales as well.
It is. Well, but not everyone teaches that. I think because what we tend to do in our society today is we think we know the answer. We want immediate results, so we don't spend a lot of time digging deep. But it's until we really dig deep that we truly understand what we're trying to solve to. Nikki's been really active. So she said, prospects and buyers think they know the challenge, but with discovery calls, leaders can uncover the deep reasons to understand the real problem at hand. And this applies, as Talila was saying, she even has the 5 whys. So this applies really even in personal lives. I mean, people want to know that you care about them. So when they say, hey, I'm not doing really well today. Okay, why are you not doing well? Well, I woke up feeling yucky. Well, why do you feel yucky? Well, because I have a cold. Well, why do you have a cold? Well, because it's kind of cold outside and I didn't actually wear appropriate clothing the other day. And I'm kind of tired and my body's worn out. And now you're like, oh my gosh. So it isn't just that you have a cold. It's that you have been going nonstop, 90 to nothing. So how do you help reduce some of that nonstop so that your body isn't worn out, right? It's like those types of conversations that get you to really understand, because otherwise one would say, oh, I have a cold, I need to take some medicine and maybe tomorrow I'll feel better. When in actuality, they have a cold because their body's run down, because they're doing too much, because they can't say no, and it could just go deeper and deeper and deeper. And then you really figure out, well, if I really solve to that really deep problem, then I probably won't have a cold 6 months down the road from now, a year from now. Next time, I will probably eliminate the probability of even catching a cold, right? I mean, it's just that fun, but it applies not just in sales and in leaders, but just in general for relationships.
In life. I think a lot of the things that we talk about in leadership and in sales apply all over in life. You know, one of the series of posts that you had that I really loved, you had a series of posts about listening to customers. You talked about it in the connotation of sales, but I think it applies, just like you say, it applies to all facets of work and life and everything. In my book, I talk a lot about listening to customers and listening to your employees, because a lot of the time the solutions are there. Leaders are looking for grand solutions, but you can find simple solutions, or you can find the next big thing just by listening to your employees and listening to your customers. You need to listen to your customers because you need to understand their pain points, right? This is something that you talk a lot about, right? How do you do a sales call? You listen to your customers, you listen to what they have to say. You don't try to sell them, you try to understand their pain point and solve to them, right? And
Yeah.
just the same thing, when you develop a new product, you want a product that solves the pain points of the customers, right? Because that's what important about product. A successful product is product that solves pain points of the customers. And in order to find what the pain points are, you need to listen to them, right?
Yep.
And that's on the one hand. On the other hand, from a leader perspective, a lot of the time there are challenges that leaders, because they are at a certain level, they're just not aware of. And if you create an open communication channels with your employees, you get to learn about these things much sooner. And sometimes you won't learn about them at all if you didn't just open yourself and talk with your employees at all levels. I think it's one of the most important things.
And listen to them, not just open the channels, but actually listen to them. So if you're talking about various different ways to start engaging as a leader with your employees so that you open those channels of communication and you give yourself an opportunity to actually listen to them, what are some of the channels that you recommend that are really helpful?
I always try to create an open environment where everybody can say whatever they feel is right, as long as it's respectful, of course, and don't feel that they need to hold anything back. Now, sometimes it makes life a little harder for the leader, because once people realize that they can't say anything, they actually do say things, even things that you don't always enjoy hearing. But it is important to listen to them. One of the examples I don't remember that I actually did include in the book is I was doing an agile transformation in one of the organizations that I led, and I brought a training team. Everybody seems to be on board. I brought a training team that trained the entire organization, not just my organization, but also the supporting organizations. I thought everything was on track, and we're on track, and we were going towards deployment. And then the managers that reported to me, my direct reports, came back and said, the team really doesn't think we can do it. There are problems. Nobody wants to. And it's like, how is it even possible, guys? What's happening here? We talked about it for weeks. Oh, there are problems. They think they cannot do. So I said, okay, you know what? I was shocked, but I said, okay, let's hear it out. So I had all my direct reports gather all the feedback. And they came to me with huge spreadsheets. I spent hours going on over these spreadsheets and addressing each and every item that was there. A lot of the items were the same between the groups, but some items were different. So we really had a lot of work on our hands. Some of the items were things that they didn't understand in the new processes. So this was a teaching moment, right? Yeah. We explained some of their assumptions were not correct. We had to fix the commentation. And sometimes it was not a matter of clarification. It was really they found a problem in the new process and we had to fix it. So all in all, we fixed it, we clarified, we fixed, and we went. The only thing that I said, okay, we will address everything, but we will not stop it. We will go ahead with the new way of doing things, because before we were delivering to the market every year and a half, basically, which is not acceptable in today's fast-paced environment. We needed to be quicker and more nimble. So I said, we're not going to stop it. We're going to continue. And so we did continue. It was a huge success. We cut our delivery time for a year and a half on-prem to 6 months, and then on cloud, every 3 weeks we had a release. And that was during the time of COVID. And I used to hold skip level meetings every week with a different group. And in one of those skip level meetings, I said, see how successful we are in Agile, see what we accomplished. I know that you guys objected to this. And everybody was, what are you talking about? We never objected to anything. And I was like, but what do you mean you didn't object? I had these spreadsheets. And then I realized people really didn't object. They had concerns. They had things that they didn't understand. There were real problems in the process.
Mm-hmm.
And because I didn't, shut anything down, we addressed each and every one of them. This didn't only get us the buy-in and the enthusiasm and the motivation of the people, it also helped us make things better. The reason the implementation was so successful was because we listened and we addressed each and every real problem that was there. And that's why listening is so important, because when you listen, you hear what's wrong. It's not always nice to hear. It was definitely not, I definitely didn't enjoy it when it happened, but it helped make things better. And that's the important thing.
I agree. I mean, so many times people just want to be heard. So for you to hear them and then even take that a step further and actually make change, because I don't care how good we are as leaders, as coaches, as salespeople, just whatever role we're in, no matter how good we are, there's always room for us to improve. Always, right? I mean, that is part of our learning and our growing throughout our lifetime. So for us, there's always going to be something that we could be doing better. And so listening to those that are on the outside, on the peripheral, who can see the things that we may not be able to see because we're in the trenches, adds so much more value. And if we look at it as a way to help us improve rather than as a criticism or a negative, then it really opens the door for so much more success and for us to take all of that we're doing and to elevate that into the next level. So I love that story. Love that story. That's awesome. Well, you've been doing a lot since the book launch, right? So you've been crazy busy. Part of the things that some of the things we talk about here on Blue TV is not only about some of the things you're doing that are amazing and where you're headed. So I'd love to make sure we cover what's coming up and new, but we also talk about, how we're leveraging LinkedIn and some of the success we're seeing there. But I know you've been doing a lot lately. So you and I were chatting before we went live, and one of the challenges that you and I have both had is really finding that consistency on LinkedIn right now with all the things we got going on. So maybe share a little bit of some of your challenges, because I think it's so important for those who are on LinkedIn to realize that, one, not everyone has it all together as it relates to LinkedIn. I mean, it's not always perfect, right? And two, there are always things we could be doing better. And three, it's nice to hear how we can recognize when there are challenges and how we can adapt to them and evolve over that. So maybe share a little bit of some of the challenges you've been dealing with since your book launch.
Yeah, so for me, LinkedIn was always some sort of an outlet to my thoughts and a way for me to express myself and share it with a bigger community. And when I was writing the book, things were just pouring out of me. I was so immersed in everything that I was doing. I was having interviews with amazing leaders that wanted to share both their success and their challenges. I was sharing my own stories of success and challenges. So what I did was, a lot of what I did during that time was, since I was still working on the book, so I couldn't share the entire book, I was sharing a lot of what I was doing. I was sharing tidbits of things that got into the book and getting feedback on them and sharing my experience speaking to these leaders, and things just poured out of me. And I was also reading a lot of leadership books as a reference, and I shared. I had like a Talila's reading corner where I shared what I, and so everything was the LinkedIn was very kind of natural extension of what I was doing. After I published in May, and initially it was still about the book and what I was doing around the book. But then, as I was getting new clients to my consultancy, things shifted a little because I have confidentiality agreements, and I couldn't share, or I didn't feel comfortable. I mean, a lot of the things you can share when you remove names, but I didn't feel comfortable sharing some of the things that I was immersed in my day to day. And so that from posting 3 times a week, I went down to twice a week, and lately it's even been once a week. And on one level, I miss the ability to share with the community and get feedback. And on the other level, opening up is not, doesn't come as easily or as naturally and it is before. So I'm trying to find a new balance on the things that I do and the things that I share, and how to go about doing this. And I wonder if you have similar challenges, or how do you come up with your ideas? And you're very prolific.
Oh, thank you. But you and I were talking about this. I've been in the same challenge as you have, where I've had some personal challenges here in the last couple of months. And I took a little bit of a break intentionally during the summer. And I did that last summer as well. But then coming back, I had some personal challenges. So I've kind of been almost non-existent for a period of time here on LinkedIn, which doesn't bode well for us, right? I mean, here we are, we're top voices, which for those of you that don't know, and I try not to share this a whole lot, but Blue TV is the blue top voices, right? It is, so here we are, top voices. We got our received our designation, honored with that designation for our content. And then all of a sudden our content's obsolete, right? I mean, it's just non-existent. So for me, what I've been trying to do is, I was like you, I was posting a lot, although I was posting sometimes 3 times a day versus 3 times a week. I know that's insanity, right?
Yes.
So what I've been doing is, I'm not as challenged with you as it relates to, I try to make mine, this is a practice I've been doing, even though I may take, content that came from a client, I always make it almost as though it's not from a client, right? So for me, that's something that I've been practicing a lot. So it's easier for me to probably generate content just for that reason. Because I do think in terms, when I'm coming up with the thoughts, I think in terms of my clients, but I don't relate it as in terms of clients. But I don't know that that's necessarily a good thing either, because I love your content when you talk about how you've had specific clients or engagements where you've experienced this and this is how you help solve it. So I see the benefits of both of them. But I would say what I've been trying to do is slowly come back and find what a new consistency is for me. I don't know if it'll be 3 times a day. I don't know if it'll even be 5 times a week. But what I am trying to do is just slowly come back and do what feels right. And I think that's the biggest takeaway for those of us who are content creators. And look, our numbers as content creators, whether you're a top voice or not, they're continuously growing. And being a content creator does take a lot of time and energy and lots of ideas, and finding that consistency. I think it's just about, the reality is, here's what I think, take it for what it's worth. People probably don't think of us as much as we think that they think about us. So if we were doing 3 times a day, yes, maybe they don't see us in the feeds as much, but they're not going to be so disappointed that we can't just come back. We can come back at our own consistency, and we're not doing anyone a disservice because, again, they probably don't, they recognize maybe that they don't see us in the feeds as often, but they're so busy, they're not thinking about any of that other stuff. So start just really small and just generate something that feels good. And do it for yourself, not necessarily for anyone else, until you can get back into that momentum where now it's about everyone else. But right now, just do it for you. Just put something out there that feels right to you and that you're happy with, and just let it go. And then start to, refine that and massage it until it gets back to where you're really super comfortable that you're adding value. But you're going to add value, Talila. I remind myself there's a reason why we have been so successful on LinkedIn. And it's really just about us being our authentic self. So even when it doesn't feel quite right and we don't know what to generate, just putting something out there helps us and lets everyone know that we're still there. And it helps us then kind of evolve, because you're evolving, right? I mean, we're always evolving.
We're always evolving. We're always evolving. I'm thinking about the content that I had, when I started, and the content that I'm doing now. It's completely different, and it's been, I don't know, less than 3 years. So yes, I think that's natural, right? And I think if people that stand, I mean, you don't want to stand still ever, because if you don't go forward, you're
Right.
you're left behind, right? You
Yep.
always have to move forward, and hopefully in the best direction possible.
Agreed. We've had tons of amazing comments out here. I've been trying to feature them, but we've been in such conversation. I haven't had a whole lot of opportunity to make sure that we're engaging with them. But I want to thank Nikki and Shubham and Chris for joining in the conversation. And they're right. I mean, there are so many ways we can generate content now. We can use Chat GPT. Christopher says we can also leverage our client questions. So, instead of writing that content the way you did before, Talila, maybe just putting a different spin so it doesn't feel like you're sharing too much of their information, and making it more generalized versus client specific really does help.
Yeah. I always, unless I get permission, I always anonymize the clients. I never share personal information. And I like what Chris said about using client questions as content. And that's what I've been trying to do. He says, turn client questions into content. I totally agree. I think that's the best content. And that's when I get the most feedback and the most interest, because these are real things that customers care about and want to know. And that's, by the way, where I had some of my biggest struggle as to, can I share or should I share, and how to share it in a way that will keep the client, the client anonymous, and not get into details. But I would always do that. Client information can never be shared if the client is interested in it.
Unless they were featured in your book, Talila, which
yes, and they did. Some of them definitely did.
Which was awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I know I want to be cognitive of everyone's time. We're getting close to the end time. I want to know some of the things. So I hope that, well, before we kind of close out with what's going on and what's new, I'm hoping that the conversation around this LinkedIn topic and consistency, that everyone took a little bit away, which is two things, I think. One is, we all struggle, even us as content creators like Talila and I, we all struggle with content and consistency, right? And it's really just about just executing, whatever that is, I truly think that you have to sit with those emotions, those feelings, whatever that is, with, the resistance to wanting to post or not being able to get back in post. Navigate what you need to, take the time that you need to, and then come back and just start slow again and just start executing. Once you do that, I think what you'll see is everything will start to flow again a bit more. And you can use tools, as Shubham mentioned, Chat GPT. Chris mentioned client questions, and Christopher, I don't know if I can actually call you Chris, but I'm calling you Chris, even though it's Christopher. But making sure that we really leverage the tools that are out there to help us. Nikki says, Talila states that she gets the most feedback when she talks about real things that customers care about and want to know. And I think that's really the key when we're generating content. Think about, in the short term, just getting content out. Think about what's good for you. And then as you start to get back to creating, then start realizing what your audience really wants, and start getting content out that they value, that is valuable to them. But now I want to know, so I hope that was a great takeaway, but now I want to know what's coming up for you, Talila. What you got going on here that is on the horizon that we can get excited about for you?
So I have some new and exciting contracts new and exciting clients that I'm onboarding now. So that's been very exciting. I'm also a fellow of the Stakeholders Learning and Governance Institute. This is a wonderful nonprofit organization that works to prepare potential board directors to a director role. So this is also something very exciting that I'm really enjoying. And I'm doing some more work with the book. People really, some of the people that read it really enjoyed it and are looking for me to help them implement some of the things in their own organization. So that's super exciting.
Did you generate a workbook with it?
No, I was thinking about it, but I ended up not doing it. Maybe this is the next project, maybe.
Well, regardless of whether it is or not, we're excited with all the things that you've got going on. I can't wait to have you back here 6 months from now and sharing with us some of the new and exciting changes that have been going on, and how many more clients you've impacted positively. I want to thank you for taking the time out today to join us here on the Blue TV to share a little bit about what's been going on since your book launch and some of the exciting things that have transpired, and also sharing with us some of the challenges that you've had here on LinkedIn, because it really helps others to see that, it's not always easy for all of us. And it is really about making sure that, we just show up as our authentic selves in a way that works for us. And we are going to evolve. We're going to grow. We're going to change. That's part of life. And that's the beauty of the journey. That's the beauty of the journey in life, right? It's not just the destination, it's the journey to get there. So I want to thank everyone who has been out in the audience, Shubham, Nikki, Christopher, and anyone else. Make sure you drop us a note if you're on Team Replay, and that way Talila and I can come back and engage with you. If you haven't checked out Talila's book, there is the link. So it is in the comments below. So be sure to click on that and order her book. Talila, anything that you want to say or leave others with, maybe as a parting thought that you think is important?
Just what we discussed about before. Ask curious questions and listen. I think these are the two most important things that we can do for others and for ourselves.
I love that, because I think that is so important as part of what I preach and teach and coach as well. It's really listening. And those are tips that you don't need just for leadership or for sales, but just in life in general. I mean, you develop some amazing relationships when you actually take the time to be curious and listen to the other person that you're having the conversation with. So I would just echo that. That's my leave behind, is I echo the value of that. So I want to thank everyone for being here. We're here every Thursday. Thank you very, very much. You can find Talila with down below on their LinkedIn. There's a link to her LinkedIn profile. Go out and connect with her, get to know her a bit more, go buy her book, ask her any question you want around leadership. And her framework is something that can be used not just with leaders and in business, but in sales and every other aspect of business, as well as in our personal lives. So Talila, again, thank you. Thank you to everyone who is out there, and we'll see you guys again next week. In the meantime, I'm going to take us out with some music. So I'm going to play some music, and then we're going to head out. Bye, everyone.